punctal unit of the kidney. Okay? It's responsible for urine formation, extraction of waste products from what we call the renal filtrate. Now the nephron consists of two major components. What's called a renal corpuscle, as you can see it listed there under nephron. And it's these spherical structures here in the cortex. That's what gives the cortex kind of a granular appearance. Okay? The renal corpuscle, not capsule, corpuscle. Okay? So these are renal corpuscles, and again, they're confined to the cortex of the kidney. And here's one enlarged, okay, cut away. This is a renal corpuscle. Okay, the renal corpuscle then consists of two parts. The glomerular capillaries, which we already talked about, surrounded by a collecting chamber called the Bowman's capsule or glomerular capsule. This is what catches the fluid coming across the glomerular capillary walls and channels it into the renal tubules. So again, that's one component of the nephron, the renal corpuscle. The capillaries, glomerular capillaries, or glomerulus, surrounded by the Bowman's capsule or glomerular capsule. The other part of the nephron is the renal tubule, which is arbitrarily divided into regions, which I'd like you to know. The first region is the tube that actually drains this Bowman's capsule. That's called the proximal convoluted tubule. And you can see it on the models. Okay? It's coming out here. You can see it here coming out of the Bowman's capsule or glomerular capsule. Proximal convoluted tubule. Proximal because it's close to glomerulus, or the Bowman's capsule, if you will, and convoluted because it's highly folded. It's highly twisted. Okay? Then, the renal tubule dips down from the cortex into the medulla and forms kind of a U-shaped structure. And that's called the loop of Henle. The loop of Henle. Okay? H-E-N-L-E, no Y. H-E-N-L-E, loop of Henle. Now there are two portions of this. The part that's extending from the cortex down the medulla is called the descending limb of the loop of Henle. Not the descending loop of Henle, but the descending limb. And then the part then that goes from the cortex back to the medulla is called the ascending limb. We're talking about the flow of the renal filtrate. So it goes from cortex in the medulla, then back to cortex again. Yes?
So it's descending then?
Yeah, so it's descending limb of the loop of Henle, ascending limb of the loop of Henle. I'd like you to specify that. Don't say ascending, descending loop of Henle. It's all part of the same. Just different regions of loop of Henle. And again, we're going by the flow of renal filtrate. And the fluid in here is not urine yet. It's considered renal filtrate. This is what's come out of the blood. And it's going to be adjusted. By the time it leaves the nephron, then technically it's referred to as the urine. At this point, it's renal filtrate. Remember earlier we talked about the glomerular filtration rate as far as adjustment of blood pressure, okay? So here we are, glomerular filtrate. Okay, from the ascending limb of the loop of Henle, then your tube goes into a high folded tube again called the distal convoluted tubule. The distal convoluted tubule. Again, it's highly folded. Distal because it's distal to the renal corpuscle or glomerular capillaries. And that's the end of the nephron. So again, the nephron, renal corpuscle, glomerulus surrounded by the Bowman's capsule or glomerular capsule, and the renal tubule, proximal convoluted tubule, descending limb of the loop of Henle, ascending limb of the loop of Henle, and distal convoluted tubule. That's the nephron. The nephron then joins this tube, which is called a collecting duct, which starts up here in the cortex and runs down into the medulla. It's a collecting duct. And it's collecting from the distal convoluted tubules of a number of nephrons. collecting duct is not part of the nephron. By the way, when the fluid enters the collecting duct, that point on now is considered as urine, even though it may still be somewhat adjusted before it leaves the body as to what's in it. Okay, from the collecting ducts then, down at the end here, it merges into one larger tube called the papillary duct. That runs through the renal papilla, which remember is that tapered portion of the renal pyramid. It's called the apex or papilla, and coming through that are these tubes called the papillary ducts. And they're draining urine into a minor calyx. Yes?
So I'm sorry, where do you tell, how do you tell the difference between a
Just
collecting
down here,
duct?
down here. So if I put a pointer down here, you can assume it's the papillary duct. Up here, these would be the collecting ducts. Okay? So collecting ducts are collecting urine from the nephrons, the distal convolutubular nephrons. They eventually join together to form a larger duct called the papillary duct, which drains through the renal papilla into a minor calyx. Okay, so that's a nephron in general. Now,